The wind howled through the broken shutters of the old farmhouse, carrying the scent of rain and loneliness. Clara wrapped her shawl tighter, staring at the empty chair across from her. Her husband's hat still hung by the door, untouched for 3 long years since the accident that took him. The farm was dying, just like her spirit. Debt collectors would arrive by morning. She whispered to the silent room, "I wish you were here, James, just one more night." Outside, thunder rolled over the hills, and through the rain, a figure appeared, tall, broad-shouldered, a cowboy hat pulled low. His horse's hooves echoed against the muddy ground. Clara's heart froze. Strangers didn't come this far into the valley. When she opened the door, he stood there, drenched and silent, eyes like the storm itself. "Ma'am," he said softly, "my horse threw a shoe. Might I wait out the rain?" Clara hesitated. Something about his deep voice felt oddly familiar. But loneliness had its own logic. She stepped aside. "Come in," she said. The man removed his hat, shaking water from his hair. Even beneath the shadows, his face looked carved from dust and struggle. His coat was worn, but his hands, strong, clean, didn't belong to a poor man. She offered him coffee, trying not to notice how his gaze lingered on her wedding ring. They sat by the fire, the silence between them thick as smoke. "You live alone?" he asked finally. Clara nodded. "My husband died 3 years ago. Since then, it's just me and the land." His eyes softened. "You're strong," he murmured. "Most would have left." She smiled faintly. "Sometimes I wish I had." He didn't answer, just stared into the fire as though it held a secret. When the knock came, Clara nearly dropped her cup. The banker's voice barked through the door. "Mrs. Hayes, tomorrow we take the land unless payments made." Clara's hands shook. She opened the door halfway, trying to hold her ground. "I just need a little more time." The man sneered. "Unless you've got a husband who can sign a new deal, there's nothing to talk about." The cowboy rose from the chair. "Evening, sir," he drawled, stepping beside Clara. "Her husband's here now." The banker froze, eyes flicking between them. Clara's breath caught. The words hung in the air like thunder. "You're her husband." "That's right," the cowboy replied coolly, resting a hand on Clara's shoulder. "Now unless you're planning to do business, I suggest you leave this lady in peace." The banker stuttered something about returning tomorrow and hurried off into the storm. Clara turned to the stranger, wide-eyed. "Why would you say that?" The man's lips curved into a half-smile. "You needed a husband tonight, didn't you?" Her heart pounded. "You heard me," he shrugged. "You were talking to the empty chair. I figured maybe the chair could use a break." For the first time in years, Clara laughed, soft, startled, like a melody she'd forgotten. "You're impossible," she said. "Maybe," he replied, "but for tonight, I'm your husband." His eyes were steady, and for a flicker of a moment, she almost believed him. The rain softened, but neither moved to end the charade. Somehow, the lie felt safer than the truth. Later, while she fixed supper, she caught him studying a photo on the mantel, her late husband, smiling beside her under the same roof. "You look happy there," he said quietly. "We were," she answered. "Before the accident." His jaw tightened, as if the word cut too deep. "Accidents," he muttered, "they change everything." When the fire dimmed, Clara offered him a spare blanket. "You can take the couch." He nodded, but didn't lie down immediately. "You trust me awful easy," he said. "I don't have much left to lose," she replied softly. "Besides, you saved me tonight." His gaze lingered, warm and unreadable. "You might be wrong about that," he said. "You just don't know what kind of man I am." Morning came with a quiet mist over the valley. Clara woke to find the stranger outside, chopping wood like he'd lived there all his life. The scent of fresh coffee filled the air. "You didn't have to do that," she said, stepping out. "You fed me," he said simply. "I pay my debts." But when their eyes met, it wasn't about debts anymore, it was something neither dared to name. The banker returned, looking smug. "Let's finish this," he said. The cowboy stood tall beside Clara. "Mr. and Mrs. Hayes will sign today," he said smoothly. The banker blinked. "You're serious?" "Dead serious," the cowboy said. He pulled a leather pouch from his coat and dropped it on the table. Gold coins clattered out. Clara gasped. "Where did you get that?" The banker counted quickly, eyes wide. This is more than enough. He mumbled a curse and left, slamming the door. Clara turned to the stranger, trembling. Who are you really? His smile faded. Just a man passing through, he said. But you don't need to worry about losing this place now. That gold, it's not yours, is it? She whispered. He didn't answer. As he saddled his horse, she ran after him. Wait, don't go yet. He paused, his hand on the reins. I was never really your husband, ma'am. Maybe not, she said, tears glistening. But you felt more real than anyone since he died. He tipped his hat. Then I reckon that's enough for one night. And before she could stop him, he rode away, leaving her with a mystery that burned brighter than her sorrow. Days turned into weeks, but Clara couldn't forget him, the stranger who'd saved her farm and vanished like a ghost. Sometimes at dusk, she'd stand by the fence, watching the horizon, half expecting his silhouette to return. The gold he'd left behind paid off her debts, but peace never came. Instead, she was haunted by the warmth in his eyes, and the question he never answered, who was he really? One morning, a letter arrived, no return address, just her name written in neat, firm handwriting. Inside was a single line, if you still need a husband, come to Willow Creek Ranch. Her heart skipped. The name sounded familiar. Stories whispered in town about a reclusive cowboy who owned half the valley, a man richer than any banker. But why would he call for her? Clara packed her old suitcase and rode out at sunrise. The road to Willow Creek was long, winding through fields touched by gold light. When the ranch finally appeared, it wasn't a house, it was an empire. White fences stretched for miles, and horses galloped like wild spirits. At the gate stood a man she knew instantly, though he wasn't the drifter she remembered. Clean-shaven, dressed in fine leather, eyes sharp as ever, her mysterious husband. "Welcome, Mrs. Hayes," he said with a teasing grin. "You came." She dismounted, stunned. You own all this." He nodded. "Name's Cole Turner. I wasn't lying when I said I pay my debts. You're him, the rich cowboy everyone talks about." He smiled. "Guilty as charged. But that night, I wasn't him. I just wanted to be someone who could help." Clara shook her head in disbelief. "Why didn't you tell me?" His expression softened. "Because I wanted to see who you were without the gold. You treated me like a man, not a name." Her throat tightened. "I didn't care what you had. I just cared." The confession hung between them, fragile as a whisper. He took a slow step closer. "Then maybe you still do." They walked through the ranch, memories of that stormy night flickering between them. "You gave away gold that wasn't stolen," she said. "It was mine." He chuckled. "Money's easy. What's hard is finding someone who'd share coffee with a stranger in the dark." She laughed quietly, heart aching in the best way. "You make everything sound simple. Only when it's real," he said. That evening, he led her to a small stable at the back of the property. Inside, a horse she recognized, her husband's old mare. "She's been here," Clara gasped. "I found her wandering the hills months ago," Cole explained. "Didn't know she belonged to you until that night." Tears filled her eyes as she stroked the horse's mane. "It's like you were meant to find me," she whispered. Cole leaned against the wooden beam, arms folded, his gaze gentle. "Maybe fate's got a sense of humor," he said. "Or maybe it just needed a reason to bring two lonely souls together." She met his eyes, her heart beating wild. "You don't believe in fate." "No," he said softly, stepping closer, "but I believe in choices. And I'm making one now." Before she could speak, he took her hands. "Clara Hayes," he said, voice rough with emotion, "I pretended to be your husband once. But I'm asking you, can I really be that man now?" She felt the world blur, tears spilling freely. "You don't know what you're asking," she whispered. "I've lost too much." He smiled. "Then maybe it's time you started gaining." The ranch was silent except for the wind in her heartbeat. Slowly, she nodded. "Yes," she breathed. "Yes, Cole Turner." His grin spread like sunrise. He pulled her into his arms, and for the first time in years, the weight she'd carried lifted. No pretending, no sorrow, just two hearts finally finding home. News spread through the valley of the widow who married the richest cowboy in Willow Creek. But the truth, known only to them, was simpler. Money hadn't saved her, kindness had. Cole kept her old farmhouse standing, untouched, calling it, the place where fate knocked twice. Clara visited it often, leaving fresh flowers by the chair that once sat empty. One evening, as the sun dipped below the hills, Clara sat beside Cole on the porch of their ranch house. "Do you ever regret pretending that night?" she asked. He smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Not once. If I hadn't, I'd never have met the bravest woman I know." She laughed. "You mean the most desperate one." "Same thing sometimes," he said, grinning. They watched the horses running free, their silhouettes gold against the fading light. The past no longer haunted her, it had led her here. "You were right," she whispered. "Accidents change everything." He nodded. "Yeah, but sometimes, they change it for the better." She leaned her head on his shoulder, and the world felt finally right. Years later, when people spoke of Clara and Cole Turner, they didn't tell the story of wealth or land. They told of a rainy night when a stranger knocked on a widow's door and called himself her husband. And how, by some miracle of timing and heart, the lie that saved her became the truth that saved them both.